Welcome to the Black Male Impact. Today we have as guest Mr. Larry Hill with us. Welcome to the Black Male Impact.
Thank you, Dr. Cross. Thank you for having me.
Man, it's a pleasure to have you here, and I can't wait to hear your insight and knowledge. And I know the listeners will be appreciative of you being here. But before we get into the conversation, Mr. Hill is the CEO and founder of Hill Security, and he's also a retired sheriff. But I will give Mr. Hill the opportunity to share more about his experience before we get into the conversation. So, Mr. Hill, please share with the listeners about you and your experience before we dive into the conversation today.
Okay, thank you. Yes, my name is Larry Hill, and as you said, I am CEO of Hill Security Institute. That's a security training school that I founded, which is one of my admiration for entrepreneurship. I feel as though once you reach a certain level of education, career goals, as I said, I retired chief inspector with the sheriff office. And so that's something else that you want to do. Life continues to go on. So your plans, goals, and dreams, you have to continue to go on as well. So that's where the entrepreneurship comes in as far as Hill Security Institute. And as he shared with you, I am a retired chief inspector with the Shelby County Sheriff Office. I served 27 years there in Memphis, Tennessee. And so I have a history. I started from, the corrections and worked my way up through the ranks. And I retired in 2014. I come from a single family home. I'm a hometown St. Louis. I grew up in the inner cities, west side, St. Louis. I left there and I attended Lincoln University in Jefferson City, where I received my bachelor's degree in criminal justice, as soon as I graduated from Lincoln University, I also played football there during my stint. Right after college, I moved to St. Louis, and I'm proud to say that I am a product of the inner city and the west side St. Louis, which we say the west side was the best side, but it is the worst side. However, those challenges and stuff shaped me to be the person I am today. So we'll get more into that. And I think by coming up within the inner city, I'm one of those stats that they say shouldn't be here, should be somewhere else because of the environment that you grew up in. We normally take on those traits or those things that happens there. And I can tell you right now, that's not true. So this is just setting the stage. So I'm looking forward to having conversations. And for the males out there, the young males out there, look at me as who you can and who you want to be, and you can be what you want to achieve to be.
Man, that's great, man. And thanks for saying that, because a lot of times they do put limits on us based on where we start our journey. And you are a proof that someone's limitations are the limitations that someone put on an individual doesn't have to be, because you have proven a lot of people wrong. But before we even get into the conversation, being that you have served 26 years and with the current issue that surrounding police officers, I wish we're going to talk more about it, because we're going to talk about your profession and stuff like that. What are your viewpoint with the current issue or talks about police?
Yeah, thank you for answering that question, asking me that question right there. Being in the field for 27 years, my viewpoint is this. In today's climate, I can tell you, as a matter of fact, I just finished doing a segment here in Miami with the Channel 6 News on the Nichols case. And my prayers go out to the Nichols family. My view is today policing and the culture that we're seeing today somehow has lost its way. From a social justice standpoint, we see that it's not only now that we're talking about the other race doing things to us as far as being unfair and unjust. Now, when it get to the level of our own African American brothers doing the same thing, it's heartening, it's disheartening, it's sad. As I stated, I'm dumbfounded because this is not how I know society supposed to be when the taxpayer pays the officer's salary and they're out there to protect and serve them. And now we're seeing that those who are supposed to protect and serve the citizens out there are now becoming the ones who are applying those police brutalities on the citizen. And that is not how it's designed to be. And there has been leadership failure. There has been a culture failure. There has been failure just about on every facet from a training standpoint as well. And I worked my way up the ranks, and I can tell you there are good agencies out there, but however, there in any company, there are some bad apples, and no bad apple has to be meted out ASAP immediately. And we have to build that community and police relationship and instill that police trust that needs to be done. And I think with police reform, it can be done. It can be done, but it has to start at the top.
Man, I do agree because police officers do have to protect and serve. That's the main focus. And you have to join the organization, I believe, with that in mind. That have to be the base of which you start the service, or even have the desire, want to serve people, want to protect people, not to abuse people. And I can not say I didn't serve as long as you did, but I spent a short time. But you're right. For change, some things have to happen. So progress can be made, and you can gain the trust or regain the trust of the people in the communities and stuff like that. Because where there is no trust, you're not going to find a lot of growth and progress taking place.
This is true.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I'm just going to go into the conversation. I know you will get an opportunity again to talk more about that experience you have and what you see needs to change. But my first question to you is, what is the mindset that it takes to make a positive impact?
The mindset, I believe, what it takes to make an impact has to come from within that person, and whatever it is that that person desire to become, whatever that person goal is, whatever that person dream may be, it has to start within self. And I have to start with that because I look at myself as an example. You know, I've come from a single parent home. I didn't have a big brother. I am the big brother because I'm the oldest. But yet, where do we get our blueprint from? Of who are we going to become from, they say, boys to men? Where do we get that learning? Where do we get that education? Where do we get that platform from? Well, if there's no one, like in my situation, I use myself as the testimony. There's no one to give you that, then you have to come within yourself. And I would say, look out there and say, who represent what you want to become? It could be an athlete. It could be a police chief. It could be a political figure. It could be someone that's there doing something positive that will give you a drive from the inside to say, hey, that's who I want to be like. That's what I want to be in life. And you have to want to put yourself in those situations where you will be able to navigate, gravitate to that person that would attract you to do that mind change, and then operate and pursue that. And that's coming from self-initiation. And that mindset, once you get your mindset to a place where you want to be and what you want to achieve in life, and then you start putting those steps together and moving forth from that, that's when you will see the impact. That's when you will see who you are, and that's when you will see the values. That's where you will see the morals. That's where you will see how successful you're going to be, and how you can analyze that and look back on where you are today than where you were before you start changing that mindset. So I think it starts within, and I think it starts with pursuing that goal, purpose of where we want to go.
Man, I think that is important because, as you mentioned, that we all may not have an example, an immediate example. And not having an immediate example, sometimes some people find excuses not to become the best version of themselves. But as you shared, you can look out here to see who you want to be like and start to adapt their actions, their behaviors, the way they think And once you start moving in that direction, you will start to see change in your own life. But we have to realize that it's going to come from within, as you mentioned.
Mhm.
We have to have that desire to want better for ourselves. And even if we don't know how to do it, there are people out there who are actually doing it. So we can always learn from those individuals and just give ourselves the best chance at life, the best chance of achieving what is possible. So I really appreciate that perspective, because a lot of times you will find some people will say, man, I can't because I don't have the example. I didn't have no one to tell me. But you said it right, where we can now look outside, look who we can learn from, especially when we're talking about making a positive impact or changing our lives and stuff like that. So I really appreciate that. But I'm going to ask my next question in regards to what advice do you have for the men listening and how they can play a role in creating positive change?
Yes, men's first we have to accept the fact that in life there is no playbook. Each and every day you're going to wake up to something different. So to be the best version of yourself, what you will have to realize is that you can't be afraid of failure. You have to accept the fact that, and I know everyone's talking about, and it is good to say, in my book, failure is not an option. So you have to be able to recognize that in life, there are going to be some ups and downs, and there's going to be some failures. And you will have to, in some instances, step out there and you fail, but it's okay. I never forget Willie Jolly book. It only take a minute to change your life.
Yeah.
And I recall reading that book, and it's an inspirational, he's a motivated speaker. And I read that book, and he also had quotes in there by Les Brown. And then Les Brown gave a lot of inspirational and scriptures behind it as well that has to do with failure. And one of the thing is that we are afraid to fail, but failure is okay. That's where you learn to get back up, to achieve, work hard, continue to do what you're gonna do. And if you fail, you get back up. You fail again, you get back up. That's part of life.
Yeah.
And the strongest survive. And I look at it that for men's out there, don't give in to the narrative that stereotype. There is no good black men. Yes, there is. Don't give it to the stereotype that we are not capable of being at the same table with those who have already and did have as many challenges that don't look like us. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. My position as a chief in the sheriff department, that small percentage, and you can look at it nationally, that small percentage of African-American chief is a hard climb up. But you don't look at that challenge and how hard it is. What you look at is that where your goal is? That's where your dream is. Is that where you want to go? And you prepare yourself. You prepare yourself through education. You prepare yourself through hard work. You prepare yourself by knowing that whatever is out there that you want to achieve, you can achieve it. You cannot do it alone. And I just want to say this right here. To get to the top to where you want to be, you can't do it by yourself. And some people may beg the difference, but I believe putting God first and involving him in everything that you do, and that's your help. You have to have favor. You have to have a desire to achieve. But if you don't, then it's going to be tough. No matter how hard it is, you can be and reach any plateau that you put your mind out and just to achieve. That's why I say, for the men's out there, I didn't get here alone. I had mentors that I look up to. It's my passion to where I came from to say, hey, if it wasn't for this person in my life, I wouldn't be where I am today. So if you fail, you got someone that you surround yourself with, you get back up and you face life challenges head on and you prepare yourself And as they say, you study to show yourself approved. And it becomes sweatless victories as you continue to climb and never give up.
Well, man, you share a lot of good reminders and nuggets that I believe is beneficial to everyone. And I'll just go back from where when you started, where you said failure doesn't have to be where you stop. We all experience or will experience some form of failure. But if we fail or we fall, we get back up and just keep going. And if we fall again, we get back up and keep going. But you also remind us that we need to look out there and see who we can learn from. Mentors, when we're talking about creating change, we have to know that we can learn from others, and we will not be able to do this thing by ourselves. And I have to acknowledge, as you mentioned, put God first. You can't do this thing by yourself. And we all need favor. As you said, on this journey, when we're planning on creating positive change, man, it takes work, it takes dedication, it takes discipline, and it takes having the desire for what you want to accomplish, as you mentioned. So those are really great reminders to all of us as men and those who are coming behind us, the younger generation. I think those are really important to remember.
Yes.
So, man, that's great when it comes to creating change. But I will ask this: when it comes to Black men, and how can we help to change the narrative?
I believe we can help change the narrative out there by walking in your purpose. You can help change the narrative by preparing yourself. You can help change the narrative by accepting and being prepared and having some form of structure in your life that you want to achieve, some kind of guidance, some kind of blueprint. You can't just go out here and function without having some form of blueprint on what is it that you want to do. And I think once you start setting those standards as to what is it that you're going to be doing in life, let's get that understood. You have to put it in order. You have to have an outline. And as you go through that outline, you have to check those things off as you strive to be. Let's change this narrative. I didn't just decide that one day I'm going to wake up and be a police chief. It started from the beginning that going back to the environment where you are, in. I grew up in the inner city, St. Louis West Side. So I look at it. Let's change this narrative. What is it? I said earlier, I was supposed to be in that stat that says I'm an African American male coming from a single parent home where there's only one person, and that's my mom and my two siblings, and surrounded in St. Louis in that environment where there's drugs, where there's robbing, where there's killing. And the only way out is to do something positive within that environment.
Yeah.
So my way out was, I'm not looking at those negative. I'm changing the narrative by saying, listen to my mom. She said, there are good people, there are bad people. Hang out with good people.
That's right.
But in an environment like that, it's hard to pick who you want to hang out with, but you know right from wrong. So the narrative changes like this. I want to come out of there. I want to make something better for myself. How do I do that? My interest was sports. So I played football. I stayed into football camp. My coach, he was like a mentor. I was in football practice, day, night, afternoon. That kept me busy and not on the streets. After football season was over with, there was track season. After track season was over with, there was wrestling season. So how I'm going to change the narrative, I'm going to get involved with those positive things that I see that's going to help me become a better person, where I will be something coming out of the community. So I did that, and that kept me busy. So I wouldn't fall into this narrative that African-American males that's coming out of inner city would not be productive. No, change that narrative, start doing positive things and start putting those things forward. And then from there, I wanted to get my education, graduate from high school. From there, what I wanted to do, I want to change this narrative that we come out of here, there's a small percentage of African-American males that don't graduate from high school. No, I want to get a college degree. So I graduated, then I got a college degree. Where there's a lot of African-American male that comes out and stuff, more females in the college institutions than males. No, I want to be one of those males in that college institution that's going to heighten that stat right there as well. So now it's more African-American males going to college and graduate. Okay, we changed that narrative because now I'm enrolled. Thank you, Lincoln University. And so after that, it's like, okay, now they come out of college, then there's a lot of African-American males that come out of college, they don't have degrees. I mean, they don't have the skill set, but now function and move forward in their field. You're going to get out here, you're going to apply for the job, because coming out of college doesn't mean with a degree that you're going to have a job.
That's right.
So what did you do? You changed the narrative. I'm going to get out here, I'm going to bust my butt, I'm going to go to open some doors, go to every just about major
corporation, organization
that is in criminal justice. Hey, juvenile justice, corrections, probation, parole, whoever has some kind of criminal justice connected to it, I am determined to get out here and be something for myself. That's changing that narrative, and that's what it would take. So that hard work, determination leads to that goal, that dream, that aspiration. What is it you want to be in life? You have to change that narrative. That's changing your mindset as well. And you go out there and pursue that. It's hard work, but when you look back on it, you come from the inner city, you beat no odds, and now here it is, look where you are. So once I got into the system of criminal justice, it's like, I just don't want to be an African-American male with a degree. Now I'm landed in this system. Guess what? I set a goal, and I'll never forget it. When I interviewed, they asked me at the interview, what do you want to be 5 years from now? And you know what I told them? I said, 5 years from now. And I just came into the system. I was a deputy jailer, which is the first entry level. I said, 5 years from now, I want to be the sheriff, because that's the highest position in that field. And guess what? I changed that narrative. I didn't get there in 5 years, but if you go and look at my background, my record, I ran for sheriff in 2010. I was determined. So I changed that narrative. Here it is now, an African-American male. I was a captain at the time, and I ran for sheriff in 2010, but I had also achieved every rank within that department. So that didn't come by just saying, hey, it can't be done. Looking at these stats that against all odds. No, this is still the same African-American kid that grew up on the west side of St. Louis, coming out the Cabinet courts, that risen to the top, changed that narrative, not supposed to be here today. And here I am, chief, retired now, and, you know, showing that this can be done. And what we have to do is, once we get there, Dr. Cross, once we get there, we cannot just say, hey, look, we have made it. No, what we have to do, and this is the good part of it, is that being a mentor, you have to look and see there are also some of our young men, African-American men, that need us who are in these positions to make that impact and go back and pull them up from the bootstrap and teach them and bring them along, say, hey, this is how I got here. They don't know that time period, like that dash. They don't know that dash part of it. So we had to go back and reach them and put them in that lifeline and bring them up where they can say, hey, let's change this narrative about this stigma they have about African-American males when it comes time for us to be at that table, create that space. We got a place at that table. We got a place where we want to be too, but we have to start changing it and bringing us up and doing the hard work that it takes to get there through education, through your dream, through your goal, through your drive. And that's changing the narrative, not just saying it's going to happen on its own. You have to get out there, put the boots to the ground and work. So hopefully that could answer that question, because it's come from within, and you do it, you go through it, and you, regardless of the odds, you can overcome those obstacles and odds. That's where this is proof.
Oh yeah, man. Well, you answered that perfectly. There's nothing really to add, but I'll just highlight some of the things that you said, you know, and I will start with hard work. Whatever we want to achieve, we have to work for it. And you also let the listeners, and I hope the listeners get it, that it doesn't matter the table. We are just as great to be at any table. We have to believe it. And once you have it and plant that seed in your mind, we all To get there, we have to work to get there. We know we may have to work a little bit harder to get there based on how society have structured, but we should not even look at how society is structured. If we have the desire for something, we just have to work towards it, because once you become good at it, they can't deny what you have worked yourself towards achieving. As Mr. Hill said, he shared it in his initial interview. That's where he wants to go. And although it took time, but once you have the desire for something, and for all of us, once we have the desire, we now have to develop that work ethic to get there. And that's how we're going to change the narrative. Society may say one thing, but we have to decide that we are going to counter what society says about us. And everything that we desire is possible because innately we do have the ability to achieve it. And just look at all the negative things that society says about us and counter those negative things. It's by choice, and we can choose to change the narrative. And Mr. Hill, what you have said it perfectly. And we can do it. It doesn't matter where we start. It's not just you who have proved the naysayers or the doubters wrong. There are many of us as Black men who have proved to the doubters that what you think about us will not be our reality. That may be what you have in your mind, but it will not be our reality. And that leads to this question, because you having the desire to want to be in the justice system. So I will ask, what or who influenced or inspired you to pursue the path that you're on, or the path where you have served in the justice system?
Yeah, let me just start by saying this. I believe sometimes we have callings, right? And I believe early on in elementary school, I can recall it was a male teacher that was over, they called them, I guess, crossing guards. And so they did a little recruiting thing at the elementary school with young guys, and I might have been in the 5th grade or something like that. And they was like, who want to be a crossing guard? And all it entailed was they give you a little white strap that you strap on across you, with a little fluorescent, like a little vest. And they just want you to keep the students off the grass. And I was like, okay, I volunteered. Like, okay, so now bell ring, time to come out of school, and we lined up on the sidewalk and make sure the students stay on the sidewalk. And anyone step off of the sidewalk onto the grass, hey, get off the grass, got to walk on the sidewalk. Responsible for that. So I looked at that, I'm like, wow, is this a gift for me to start serving this little capacity stuff? So I see that now maybe this is where my servanthood come from, where I want to be in law enforcement. It was like a little security crossing guard, just making sure people were on them. Like, okay, all right. So then I came to Lincoln University. I came on a football scholarship, but however, I majored in criminal justice, and I changed my no, I was in ag business at first, and then I changed my major to criminal justice. And once I changed my major to criminal justice, for some reason, something inside me was like, this is it right here. And I can recall being in the inner city, police officers coming through there, and we running from the police, getting in chases. But however, it was like what they was doing, they had to respect back then. So I was like, look up to the police in the neighborhood as the protector. So when I came to Lincoln, I changed my major. I majored in criminal justice, and then I started studying the criminal justice system. I was like, man, this is where I want to be. I found that it was nice to not only read about the different type of there's a certain type of personality, certain type of DNA, chemical trait and stuff that has certain profiles within a person that's going to commit a crime. Just getting deep into the criminology of it, but it was interesting how the mind and everything worked, and then how those who are going to be bad or those who decide to go a different path. This is not just by happenstance. This all comes within some type of DNA within their within themselves. However, that major And then being able to come into the criminal justice system when I went to Memphis, I did get a job in correction. I was responsible for a lot of looking out for those who was incarcerated. And then I felt like this serving here, protecting here is real.
Okay.
And that heart that I had and that passion I had for it, it just grew. And then it just became a part of me to want to just continue to do this. And then not only being that, I didn't just want to be operating on the lower level. It's like, how now can I be a bigger impact in the criminal justice system? So it started early on. And
Yeah,
I'm
from you,
proud to say I'm happy where I am.
yeah, getting those kids off the grass.
Yeah.
uh,
Hey, when I took grass at 5 years old, I'm like, wait, me in fifth grade. I'm like, okay, this
you
is some
know,
law enforcement here.
that's right. That's right. Enforcing the rules and regulations of the teacher, which is, you may be surprised, but that's where it starts. But as you mentioned that you started as criminal justice, not criminal justice, you started as agriculture major.
Yeah.
Was it something like in agriculture, or you went to a criminal justice class and then you say, you know what, maybe I want to be in criminal justice? But what caused that shift from criminal justice, being that you started with criminal agriculture to criminal justice? What do you think caused that shift?
I think because I really like the study of the agricultural field. We had the lab, we had the plants and soil science and all that botany and everything going on. But for some reason, it was like, what else there to offer? It's kind of like I got bored with it. And on the campus, it was more activity going on within the criminal justice field.
Okay.
And I said, well, let me try, because I hadn't declared a major during the time. And so I took a class. And when I took that class, I found that the study, it might have been the basic criminal justice class, and just start studying about the law, start studying about the criminal justice system. I started seeing a different attraction there. And so from there, it was like, no, I like this right here. And it got to talking about the psychology aspect of it. It got the social science field. It was so many entities there. It was like running back to back. So that just took a whole new twist right there.
Okay.
Agriculture was fine, but you were dealing with a lab and you're dealing with plants and stuff. But here in criminal justice, you start having more involvement with the criminal justice system. You start having more involvement with, the people that are committing crimes. You start having more involvement on these case laws. And when they commit crime, how it go through the juvenile justice system, how it moves through the court system, how it moves from adult crimes to from juvenile crime to adult crimes, and then how the court system works when it comes down to applying certain laws to these crimes that they commit, and the political also aspect of it. So I was like, well, all these different components that you are learning here in this criminal justice field was so interesting to me that I was like, no, this is my major right here. Wasn't no going back. I'm like, no, I like this. I like this.
Yeah.
And that's the thing we talk about, Dr. Cross, is that with the male students, you want to change that narrative. We said it early on. Once you find your niche and you become a passion in what you're doing, that's your purpose.
Yeah, I do believe, and sometimes all a student need is the exposure, and maybe the right person bringing the message across. Because sometimes, especially when you grow up in a certain area, you may not want to pursue something, and you just don't pursue it because you don't have the desire. Some people don't pursue some goals because they haven't been exposed to it. So as Black men, we have a obligation to share what we believe can make an impact. When we go on a journey, being that we may not have had the immediate example, but then we become it. So now we have an obligation to share our expertise and our knowledge and our experience so we can inspire the next generation to see the value in what we found value in. Because if they don't see it, they will not become it. So they need to hear from us. And then that may become their inspiration to want to pursue what we have pursued as Black men. Not just criminal justice, you have education, you have entrepreneurship. And now entrepreneurship has now becoming one of the topics that we need to inject in our communities so our youth can see the value of being owners. And we can be owners in any field, criminal justice, because just as now you're teaching within the justice system how they can be more effective and stuff like that. So it can be in any area. And that leads me to this question, unless you have something else that you want to share in regards to why we need to change the narrative in some way, or I can just go into the next question.
Yeah, can I share something on that? Yes. While we're talking about changing the narrative, let me just share this to the males out there that's listening. We just talked about when you change the narrative, it is okay to change. You have to be able to embrace change. If there is something else that you feel as though you want to do, and it's your interest, and you into something that's not working for you, as long as you're still here, you can change. I changed that narrative from ag business to criminal justice and became successful in criminal justice. I didn't just stay there with something that I wasn't feeling or might not have been exactly what I want to do. I changed. You can change. Changing the narrative is okay. And one thing on entrepreneurship, once you change and you start seeing yourself being that passion, and you want to achieve other goals, what we have to do, and you mentioned it, from an entrepreneurship, if that's what you want to pursue, you can pursue that as well. I mentioned earlier, I'm the CEO, founder of Hill Security Institute. That is still in the process now as we speak. It's not where I want it to be yet, but I am building this entrepreneurship training so that's a goal that I want to achieve. And I'm still here to achieve that goal. I'm not stagnant. Once you reach a certain plateau, males, you can get out there and start providing wealth for yourself. You can become an entrepreneur if you want to. It doesn't stop. From one career to the next, continue to move and put things out there that you want to do and want to achieve as long as you are here. Don't limit yourself. Don't put limitations on yourself. So I just wanted to share that.
And
Leadership, entrepreneurship,
yeah,
you can
and
achieve those as well.
yes, and as you said, we can change if we are on a journey. We can pursue something else because we're not limited to one area, and we just have to go work hard at whatever we decide to do, and that's it. Don't put limits on ourselves based on societal norms, and things can change. We just have to make the commitment to it. So my next question is, what is your perspective on the current climate of Black men in society today?
I think the current perspective right now is that when you look at African American males' narrative, the culture, the things that are going on from social justice standpoint, all the unfair treatment, you look at all these negative videos, it could be negative leaders out there that has fallen, that may be of African American nature. You look at all the stereotypes, stigmas. There is so much out there, and the news media, once it's reported, it's just like it's a domino effect. If you take one step forward or two step, then all of a sudden something can happen. And if it's involving African American being involved in it, bam, it just wipes everything out. It's like it's hard to get over that hump to say, we are better than this.
Mm-hmm.
We are not what you perceive to be when you're looking at something negative on TV, or you looking at something that's negative now with the video games that's out, and they have a male, African American male, figure there. All this, I think, it does a disservice to who we are as a people, who we are as a race.
Yeah.
You know.
But as you mentioned, taking two steps forward and then have to take three steps back, as you mentioned, erase what we have accomplished. We have to become more consistent in doing the positive And not even doing, just be consistent in doing the positive, because there are a lot of Black men out here doing what we're supposed to do. But we have to find a way to capture it. We have to find a way to highlight the positive, because whatever we see the most of, that's what's going to be influence us the most. So if we want to have more positive influence, we have to be more intentional and highlighting the positive influence. We have to be intentional and covering the positive things, because again, whatever we see the most, that's what's going to influence us the most. So it really sometimes look like we may make some progress, and then something happens, and then it looks like we're not making any progress. But we are making progress, because the majority of us, maybe, I'm not sure the numbers, but there are a lot of us out here that are doing what we're supposed to do, or what we can do to make a difference. We just have to cover it. We just have to highlight it. We just have to share it. And so we can override the negative perception of who we are as Black men, because I think once something happened, when it comes to us, man, it's like a big brush. They start to paint all of us to be the same, and they cover it from every angle, and they don't cover the same. Positive things are not covered the same. So the young generation don't get to see the positive things. Everyone sees the negative when it comes to us, but not so much the positive. And that's one thing I believe we have to take a hold of, to share more of what is positive about us.
Excellent.
So, man, we can't allow for others to do for us what we need to do for ourselves. And if you start from what you stated, we cannot let the environment control our narrative. We have to take a hold of what we want to change, and that change, as you mentioned, start with us as individuals. And then we look for others who we can connect to, and those who we can learn from, as we move forward to, as you'd say, better, or to help change the perception that is presented to us about us.
Yes. And you can look at the prime example here. Say, for example, like the Nichols case. I just want to touch on that. That's not a good look. But you look at how you have those 5 African-American males. And just imagine those officers that's African-Americans inside those organizations that's waiting on their chance to move up, like I did, to a higher position, right? You look at that. On the inside, most of those agencies are predominantly white. And some of the African-American males in there, their goal is, like myself, is to climb the rank to be that next African-American chief, right? So now you look at it, here it is, the opportunity. They might have failed on the inside, they're getting close. As you start making rank, you're getting close. But then when you see that narrative there play out in this case here, a lot of them now on face value might have a harder time moving themselves into a position where they want to be based upon the actions of the others.
Well, yes. Again, society at times look at us based on what is said about us. Mm-hmm. And they generalize us based on another Black male action, which is not the case, because it's like we are the only one who sometimes have this big brush paint. That's who you all are. And other race may not have the same effect with what they do. But and that's something that we have to understand, that it's different for us. And where we come in now is to make sure, and I'll go back to sharing or covering or highlighting the positive. So more of that can be said out there, more of that can be seen by others, because the negative is going to be circulating on every platform, and covered so people now start to have that perception of who we are. We have a lot of work to do, of course, but we have to take charge of the narrative and be as positive as we can and share the positive things about what we're doing and what others are doing, so we can help to change the perspective of how we are seen in society. And I know we have covered this to some extent, but I'll still ask the question: what change do you want to see in general amongst Black men?
The change I want to see in Black men is that we have what it takes.
Okay.
We can do what it is that we set our mind to. We can set goals. We can set standards. We can put ourselves in any position that we want and do the work to get there. There's nothing there that would hold us back from achieving whatever it is that we want to achieve. But we have to believe in ourselves that if it requires a certain criteria, if it requires a certain standard, whatever those standards requirements are, we can abide by them. We can prepare ourselves. We can achieve them. But we have to know, as we go back to the mindset, that we set our mind to do it. No matter what obstacle is out there, we can do it. So as African-American males, and if you want to be that next mentor to those coming up that's looking up to you, then putting yourself in that position of leadership, of hierarchy, or achieving any goal on any level of any career, corporation, sports, entertainment, we have within ourselves the necessary skill sets, qualification, credential to do that, and not just house it within ourselves. But once we obtain that, we also should have that heart to go back, reach down, and mentor and help others, African American males like us, and we make that big impact that we need to make. I would like to see that change, because we can look at a lot of leaders that we have out there on this big platform, including what you have represented here. You have this podcast that's given us the platform of people like us that wouldn't have this chance now to say, hey, there's one of us right here that has climbed the rank and worked hard to get there. There's others also now that can come and utilize your platform to do the same thing. So I'm hoping with this platform here, the podcast, inviting males like myself and others that in higher parole as African Americans in these higher roles here can reach back and share this and be impactful in bringing up some of these young males and say, hey, we want you at the table with us. We're going to give you the steps. We're going to guide you. We're going to come pull you out of these struggles. And we're going to be the person that you look up to. Well, one day you can be right where we are, and that tradition or that continue to carry on. And that's what I want to see. Men like us that you bring on this platform continue to reach back and bring up the next young generation to be the next whoever it is that they want to be like. And we make that happen.
Well, man, that is so true in regards to the change in general. We now have to be willing to opening doors for others. We have to be willing to pull someone up so they can become who they can be. That's an obligation that we shouldn't take lightly. We are ahead, so we have to want to see more of us in spaces that can provide leverage, that can provide opportunity for us to advance and progress and just achieve what is possible. It doesn't make sense that we reach a certain level and then, you know what, I am here and you are there. We have to get into the mindset of opening doors for others. And I like to tell people at times, because you never know. The person that you help today may be the person who will help you tomorrow. We never know. It's not because you're in a position or a good position means that's where you will be forever. And sometimes, even although it's a good position, you may give someone an opportunity. That person will get to a place where they can open a bigger door for you. You see what I'm saying? Because we never know. This is life. Anything can happen. Someone we help can in turn be the person that help us. We have to get into the mindset, and that requires that we develop the trust for each other. We break those cycles that society have created for us, that we don't trust each other, that we don't work well with each other. Yes, we work well with each other if we want to. We can trust each other if we want to. It makes it take some time to override the false notion that we have been conditioned to think. But we can, as you mentioned earlier in the conversation, we just have to want to do it. And once we want to do it, we will do it. It may take time to unlearn some of the false narratives, from some of the false perception of ourselves or of each other. But we have to be willing, man, to, as you mentioned, to be the one to pull somebody up, to open the door for somebody else, so things can start changing. And that's going to come with us trusting each other. So, I think, man, we can do great things, man. We have the ability to do it. Innately, we have the ability to do it. But I want to ask this question, and I know you may have shared pivotal moments in the conversation so far, but just to highlight it, what was a pivotal moment in your life?
Okay. So pivotal moment, or you mean a dark moment, or?
No, man, it doesn't have to be. Well, a dark moment could bring insight to what's possible. But I know you have shared when you were at college and then you went to that class and then you got exposed to criminal justice, or it could be something in your community earlier, even that time when you were in the 5th grade. And because that could be a pivotal moment, but whatever like gets you on track to do what you are doing right now or have the desire to do where you're helping others to be better.
Let me share this pivotal moment. And I think this was a crucial turning point in my life. I mentioned failure.
Yeah.
And if you fail, it's okay.
Yeah.
You just get back up. But one of the pivotal moments that I believe put me on a right track to where I am today is my early teenage days there at Lincoln University. I came in with a research scholarship and a football scholarship. A lot of people probably didn't know this, but I was in the upper bound program, and I came in with a high 3-something GPA. However, playing football, pledging, doing what it takes to achieve success, I kind of got caught up in the activities more so than taking education serious, to the point where I was, and I don't mind this being a testimony, I was stamped and put on academic probation, which cost me a semester. And that's why I say, just because you fail, you get back up. I came in with my class. I got put on academic probation because it was my responsibility to continue my success, and I failed doing that. And there were some consequences. The academic probation, so I had to sit out a semester.
Wow.
So by me sitting out a semester at 18, 19 years old, coming from the inner city of St. Louis, I didn't have anywhere else to go. So good thing my mom from Memphis, Tennessee, and that's how I got that connection, lived there. So when I got stamped on academic probation, I had to withdraw from the school. I came to St. Louis. I was on there a day, and I left and got on the bus and went to Memphis for that semester that I had to sit out. And that was the darkest moment in my life. So I recall coming back to St. Louis after that semester was over with. One of the brothers on campus by the name Lee Goodman, I have to mention his name because he was one of the few that would come into that neighborhood where I grew up at and pick me up in his vehicle and talk to me, because the neighborhood was bad. And if you didn't know anyone, you couldn't just come over there, but he did. And when I got back into his car and we was driving to take me back to the school, I'll never forget it. He was like a mentor to me. And I told him, I said, Lord, let me back in this school. I would never do this again. And he talked to me with so much encouragement and so much. When you need a mentor or someone there for you to pick you up, to be there to put you on the right track and give you that inspiration that you need, I said, I'll never do this again. And when I got back to Lincoln University, I was on a track to say that, and I remember talking to the dean that once I get back in school, can I carry a load and get myself back on track? And I never, ever have to worry about being out of school again. I lost my scholarship. I lost my football scholarship. My mom didn't have the money. And they said, well, they were familiar with me from that program, research program. And he said, you cannot fail. And I told them I would not. They allowed me to take a load. I carried a load that summer. I carried a load the rest of those semesters. I was carrying, they approved it, 18 hours a semester, all the way up until I graduated.
Wow.
I became involved in the criminal justice class. I was on the dean list every year. I turned myself around. And here's the most important thing. I came in with my class. I went to 2 summer schools. I never went back to St. Louis to visit during the summer. I took my education serious. I got my scholarship back in football. I got my research back on the campus, and they allowed me to work in the lab. And when I finished, I graduated with my class. But it took hard work and determination. But when I got put on academic probation, that was a pivotal point in my life that I would never fail at anything else I do in life. And right today, I have lived up to that. And that's why I have such a drive now to do anything that I want to do, and with the heart to reach back, because Lee Goodman is a mentor that talked to me. Now he's a lawyer and he's a pastor. Okay. He instilled in me qualities, the skills, and everything that it takes to be that and do that right thing. And that was a turning point, and that was a pivotal point. And I say this, we may fail, but you can get back up. And look where I am today, a successful career, retired chief, entrepreneur, and not done yet.
That's right. That's right. As the pivotal moment, as you just shared, although that was a bad experience, but sometimes the bad experience can put us on a path to tap into more of our own greatness, because innately we have it. And sometimes if the challenge didn't happen, we would not challenge ourselves. But the good point that you share, and not just the one point, but that person, Mr. Goodman, realized that, man, this young man have some potential. And that's what we have to do at times. You know, exactly. we sometimes see some young men based on their environment. They may show up as their environment have conditioned them to carry themselves. We have to look past how some of these young men, present themselves and see the good in them. Remember, we didn't start where we are and at the level that we are. So we are now entrusted. We have to become like Mr. Goodman and start to see the good in the people that we come around, the people we are entrusted to serve, and just to be good to others as much as we can, especially to help them to see themselves beyond where they are. So, man, that's an inspirational story in itself. And young people need to hear that you may start and fail, but you don't have to stop where you had failed. You can keep going to achieve success. So my next question is, what one life lesson did you learn late that you believe this generation need to know?
One life lesson that I learned late is this right here. And this generation you need to know this, that don't let anything or anyone define you.
Man,
you have to be the person and have that clear perspective on who you are and who you want to become, and become that.
Yes, sir. That's really, you couldn't say it any plainer or clearer. We have to make sure we're not limited by the opinions of others, or whatever picture, whatever labels, whatever stigmas have been placed on you or us. We are more than that, and we cannot let anyone define who we are or what we can become based on their opinions or perspective of who we are. So, man, that is something that is a great reminder, I should say, to everyone, especially to the generation that's coming behind us. So, before I ask my final question, please, if you could share where the listeners can find you, find the work that you're doing, so they can support the work that you're doing.
Okay, yes. I'm sure I'm on Facebook, Larry Hill. I got two Facebook pages, rather, matter of fact. But also for Hill Security Institute, you can find me there, hillsecurityinstitute.com. That's my entrepreneurship, that's my company. And as well as if there are any questions, emails, whatever, you can send that information to info@hillsecurityinstitute.com. So for the business, hillsecurityinstitute.com, that's the website. Email info@hillsecurityinstitute.com, and any social media platform.
Okay, man. Okay. And that's great because I will also share it in the comment area, description area. So the listeners can go back to it at any time to get your information so they can reach out to you, support you, or even use the service. Because I know it's important what you're doing, especially with the criminal justice, and help to reform or make some changes within the justice system, because you have experienced it. You have done an excellent job as a officer yourself, or working in the justice system, being a sheriff. So there are things that you can share that can benefit those who have interest in wanting to serve. So my final question is, what impact do you want to have on the world?
Oh, wow. The impact I want to have on the world is this: no matter how big or no matter how small, if there's anything you can do to make a difference in someone's life, be it one person or a flock, do that. Do that, because no one will want to see someone left stranded or alone, that you had an opportunity to make a difference in a person's life. No number is too small, but if you can help one person, you want to know that you have made an impact in someone's life, and that life is just as important as a flock.
Man, that's a great reminder, because sometimes we have the desire to do something, and because we don't have an audience, we say, you know what, we're not going to do this until we have an audience. But do it with one person, and if it's 10,000, a million, do it. And as you shared that, I remember once I was supposed to do a workshop. Man, I thought a lot of people were going to come to the workshop. Man, I advertised that thing. Man, one person came. And man, we were there waiting for, and the person looked to me and said, man, you remember his mentor told him that if it is one person or if it's 1,000, you speak as if it is 1,000. You put out the same energy. Don't do anything less. If it's one person, go hard as how you'd go for 1,000. So it's the same thing that you said, man. It doesn't matter. We must make the impact. One individual or 1,000. So that's one thing that I will always remember. And people be asking me sometimes, man, where do you get the drive, man? It doesn't matter. If I'm going to do the work. Regardless. So, and it's the same thing that you do. And I know you have, we're both alumni of Lincoln University, but I do see you as one of those mentors, someone who have gone ahead and paved the way and have served in your capacity and where you are. And I know it can be beneficial to all of us that's coming behind, and be an inspiration, because even just listening to your story and where you start and how easy it could have been for you not to be where you are. So I'll definitely put the information in the description so others can connect with you and support what you're doing as we continue to make a difference in the world. So, Mr. Hill, thank you for being here on the Black Male Impact.
Thank you for having me.
And it's a pleasure.
Thanks.
And listeners, please remember to support, like, share, and whichever way you find fit to support us as we continue to make a positive difference.